Veritas people? Today seems like another day in Groundhog's Day, doesn't it? But it is Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. Just a personal note, tomorrow, April 29th, I will be a parent of two teenagers. So Trinity is turning 13 tomorrow. And how did I get so old? And how did she get so old? But anyway, we're going to celebrate tomorrow her 13th birthday. So, welcome, and I'm just going to give you some devotional thoughts and some updates and some of your feedback. Would love to hear some of your feedback. So today we are looking at this simple word that we hear a lot, but seems to evade our grasp a lot of times. It's called the word peace. In Luke 24, we had just looked at the two disciples who were on their way to Emmaus, and they didn't recognize Jesus except when he sat down and broke bread, and we talked about that back on Thursday. Today, right after that, in Luke 24, verse 36, we read this. While they were still talking about this, the two disciples who were on their way to Emmaus, who had gone back to talk with the disciples, says this. While they were still talking about this, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." Then I looked at another text in John 20, 19 to 21. And it says this, on the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together, with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and his side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. Again, Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." So both of these accounts happen after the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, where the disciples are all gathered together in an upper room. We may call it, in today's verbiage, they were on lockdown or they were at stay-at-home orders. Because what does it say in John 20? The doors were locked for fear of the Jewish leaders. They realized that Jesus had died, and now the persecution was coming for them. So they were up in the upper room with the doors locked, and they were afraid. But the first thing we see in both accounts of this story is, in the midst of the disciples' fear, Jesus comes into their midst and says this same thing, "Peace be to you," or peace. He comes into their midst. They're frightened, they're scared, they're worried. They might think their life is going to end because the Romans are coming to get them. And he just says to them, "Peace." Or in the Hebrew, it's the word shalom, which means peace, but it means wholeness. It means healing. It means, as I like to call it, the way things should be. And so I felt like today, that's the word we need to hear. In the midst of COVID-19 that affects everything in our life, from government to education, to restaurants, to business, to social services, to everything has been upended because of COVID-19. And now more than ever, we need to hear Jesus standing in our midst and saying to us, "Peace. Peace be to you." And so maybe today, if you are feeling scared, if you're feeling lost, if you're angry, if you're feeling out of control in your life, in your home, in your job situation, wherever you are, may you hear the voice of Jesus say to you, "Peace be to you." May you experience the peace of Christ in your life today. But that's not where the story ends in John chapter 20. He says, "Peace be with you." But then he says this, As the Father has sent me, I am sending you. So, yes, have peace. Jesus is giving us his peace. But it's not just for our own sake, it's for the sake of the world. If Jesus says, be at peace, and then go and be sent, he is sending us into the world, into our neighborhoods, to be shalom, to bring shalom, to bring peace and wholeness in the way things should be, to extend the peace of Jesus into your neighbor's life. Words of love and affirmation and prayer for another. And so when you experience the peace of Christ, share that with others, but don't expect that maybe you might don't feel the peace of Christ in your life. But you know what? Sometimes God shows up when you go out into the world to extend the peace of Christ. It's like when you extend it, you'll receive it. And so I'd encourage you to also extend the peace of Christ to someone today. So may you experience the peace of Christ, and may you extend the peace of Christ. Experience it and extend it. As much of our time on these video times have been around our vision, calling our community to the things that drive us, to be family, to pursue truth with honest expression, and follow Jesus into the margins. How may we experience and extend the peace of Christ to each other, to the world? Here are some thoughts. How do we be family? How do we extend the peace of Christ to someone in our faith community? Write a note and send it to them old school through snail mail in their mailbox. How many have recently got something in the mail, a personalized note from someone? I tell you, it has been not often. I remember in college waiting for mail to show up. There wasn't email. I know I'm old. But we waited, and we were so excited when there was something in our college mailbox that was from home. Write a note, send it to someone, let them know you're praying for them. And if you need an address, we have them, and we can send them out to you for that. Another way, lead a joy hour on Zoom. Some ideas we came up with the other night include, have you been somewhere that you absolutely loved and you have some pictures and you want to show us your trip? Now, we don't want you to have 800 pictures, but maybe 10 to a dozen pictures of your time, and have a travel log that you've been to. And if you want to do other things, a children's story, and reaching out to our children and others that we know, let us know doing that. We have talked about also on Sunday night at our Ecclesia gathering about doing a game night or a trivia night over Zoom, and so that's something we're looking at doing in the near future. What does it look like to extend and receive the peace of Christ in our life, to pursue truth with honest expression? Well, I would love for each of you to do a video devotional about what God has been teaching you, how you've been growing in the faith. What are things that you feel God is saying to you and through you to the Veritas community? Record it and send it to me, and we'll upload it on social media. We're also looking at continuing to hold our third Friday coffee house night over Zoom. We had one back in April with Matt Wheeler, and that was a lot of fun. And we're looking at holding our next one on May 15th, also on Zoom. But if you also know a performer who could be featured, let us know. We are looking for someone to be the featured performer of that. Also, I know many artists. What if we created an online Zoom hangout to create art, to encourage each other, and to engage each other in the creative process? So if you're interested in that, let us know. Or if you want to host something like that, let us know. What does it look like to extend the peace of Christ into the world? Well, how are you seeking to love your neighbors? I want to hear about it. Jot it down in the comment section below. How are you loving your neighbors? Secondly, financially support local food banks. I know Garrett and Danny both. Garrett works at the Lancaster Food Hub, and Danny volunteers there, and so I'm sure they could use your financial help and support. So talk with them about how that Lancaster Food Hub has some needs. And thirdly, actually, stay at home. It seems weird to say that that's missional, but stay at home cares for those who are most vulnerable. So stay at home, and that's actively loving neighbors. Lastly, I want to say this. We are currently developing a strategy for how we will begin to gather again face to face. We are developing this in consultation with local, state, and federal regulations. And more than likely, it will be a 3-phase process. One that won't all happen at once, but gradually, and will increment them over time. We're not sure when this will happen, when this will start moving into phase 1. We're not sure how long these phases will last. But we are developing a strategy, and our servants team will be working on putting touches on it and then releasing it to the community to know how we are going to move forward. But I want to ask for your thoughts, your ideas, some questions that you may have about what it might look like to safely re-engage with each other face to face. So send me a message or put it in the chat box, whatever you may feel like sharing regarding this restarting or re-entry program of getting back together again. Let me close with this. It's a blessing. May the peace of God that transcends all understanding guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. So go in peace, experience the peace of Christ, and extend the peace of Christ in the world. Blessings.